The story of Pope St. Zephyrinus.
Subscribe to our channel to receive more content like this.
Have you ever heard of Pope St. Zephyrinus? No worries if you haven't. His name doesn't show up in flashy headlines or dramatic Hollywood scripts, but his story, it's one of quiet courage, deep faith, and holding things together when the world around him seemed ready to fall apart. Let's go back, way back to the early 3rd century, around the year 199 AD. At this time, being a Christian wasn't safe. Christians were still a small, misunderstood group. The Roman Empire was huge and powerful, and very suspicious of anyone who didn't worship the emperor or their gods. So, to believe in Jesus, and only Jesus, meant risking your freedom, and sometimes your life. And that's the world Zephyrinus stepped into. Zephyrinus wasn't a politician. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't even a loud voice trying to shake things up. He was humble, gentle, not the kind of guy you'd expect to lead anything, especially not the early church, which was under pressure from every side. But in the year 199, when the Bishop of Rome, what we now call the Pope, died, Zephyrinus was chosen to take his place. And just like that, he became the 15th Pope and leader of the entire Christian community at the time. But here's the thing. This wasn't just a spiritual role. It was a matter of life and death. The church was still illegal. Christians were being arrested. Some were being thrown to wild animals in public arenas. The Roman Empire was watching them closely. And inside the church, things weren't peaceful there either. There were arguments, big ones. Some groups started teaching things that sounded kind of like Christianity, but they twisted the message. One group said Jesus wasn't really God. Another said he wasn't really human. Some claimed only a few chosen people could really be saved. Others taught that suffering was proof you didn't have enough faith. It was confusing, dangerous even. People were being pulled in every direction, unsure what to believe. And there was Pope Zephyrinus, right in the middle of it all. Now, Zephyrinus wasn't a fiery speaker. He wasn't known for writing long books or winning debates. But he had something else. He was steady, faithful. He listened carefully. He leaned on scripture and prayer. And he brought in wise people to help, like his close advisor Callistus, who would later become pope after him. Zephyrinus wasn't loud, but he stood firm. He refused to accept the false teachings. He insisted that Jesus was both fully God and fully man. Not either or, but both. That God's love was for everyone, not just a chosen few. And that salvation came through Christ, and Christ alone. These may sound like obvious truths now, but back then they were radical and risky. Through nearly 20 years of leadership, Zephyrinus held the church together during some of its most fragile times. When persecution threatened to crush them from the outside, and when confusion tried to divide them from the inside, he stayed the course. He didn't run. He didn't give up. And even though he wasn't martyred like many others, he lived under constant pressure, choosing to lead with faith and integrity day after day. When he died around the year 217 AD, he left behind a church that was stronger, more united, and more grounded in truth than when he found it. So, why does his story matter today? Because not all heroes are loud. Some are quiet, steady, faithful. Pope St. Zephyrinus didn't seek the spotlight. He just did what was right, even when it was hard. He reminds us that courage isn't always about fighting with swords or shouting from rooftops. Sometimes it's about standing firm in what you believe, even when no one else understands. Sometimes it's about keeping your community together when everything around you is falling apart. And sometimes that quiet strength is exactly what the world needs most. Pope St. Zephyrinus, faithful shepherd, quiet leader, saint of strength under pressure. May his life remind us that even in the face of confusion, chaos, and fear, calm conviction can light the way.